Hey there, how you doing? Charlie Winters here with horse racing tips for Sunday, the 18th of August. Well, it was a good day on Saturday. It could have been much better, um, but it didn't quite happen. Don't get me wrong, it was a very successful day, but we could have been so much more in profit. Granted, maybe a bit of extra luck. But what happened is, I think you'd had a better day if, unlike me, I left the non-runner in my bet. If I'd have swapped it for, I can't remember what the horse was now that I selected. Mr. Turpinator. It came sixth, I believe, at 25 or 28 to 1. Well, I didn't include it in mine. I just left it as it was. So you'd have upped the bet there. It would have been a nice return. Obviously, I didn't do that, but there you go. And I also didn't place a second 5 pence each way lucky 63. So in the end, it was a very successful day, but I didn't benefit from it because I completely forgot about the second one after I placed the Mark win bet and the football bet. But speaking of the football bet was an £8 stake and a £34 return, I do believe. Um, the horse racing bet, the 5 pence each way lucky 63, taking the prices, which is the only bet I put on. I think it returned £21. So obviously, you've probably got the similar returns again if you'd have placed the 5 pence each way lucky 63. Then unfortunately, the Mark win bet was garbage. Um, as I said before, I don't rate him as a jockey. I just thought circumstances had maybe helped him to close on the apprentice jockey championship. He's always been a jockey that has come and pipped me towards a finish when I backed another horse. But when I seem to back Mark win, he's either unlucky or the horse doesn't run that well. Don't get me wrong. I think he gave the big price one, the first one, an okay ride. It just wasn't quite good enough. Then towards the end, it just faded. But let me get on to Sunday's horse racing selections. So the first selection is Air Show in the 220 at Southwell, paying four places instead of three. I do like Rod Millman when he takes his horses north. As I mentioned in the past, he trains, I believe, in either Cornwall or Devon. It's a long way up to not far from where I live in Southwell. I think it's got a good chance. I think it's well handicapped because it used to be trained by Michael Easterby, and Airshow was a regular at Southwell and on the all weather. So it's been running recently on the turf, and I think it's got a good chance going back to Southwell. The second selection is Melanie's Joy in the 250 at Southwell. This is really it's. I've looked into a bit of the breeding and not towards the all weather, but this is a horse where this is a breeding line where they don't do much as 2 year olds, but they do improve as 3 year olds. Well, this didn't run as a 2 year old, and now it runs as a 3 year old. And I think George Scott has done very well with his 2 year olds. And I know it's not a 2 year old, but I do believe that obviously it's an unraced 3 year old. And I think this horse, I just find it interesting that he's bringing it to Southwell when he could have took it anywhere. I think George Scott, and I might be wrong because I haven't even looked into it, I think he trains at Newmarket. So I'm sure there's plenty of tracks closer than Southwell. So I find it interesting. Callum Shepherd, decent jockey. It's basically taken on not luck, on trust, really, if that's the word. No form to go on, big price. Bit of a shot in the dark, I suppose. It's probably not going to win, but it might sneak that third place because after the first two, the rest of the field, there are huge prices. So that's the second selection. The third selection is Satar in the 320 at Southwell, paying four places instead of three. And finally, Berry Edge, probably one of the more interesting runners. Berry Edge in the 355 at Southwell, paying five places instead of three. I do like horses that run on from behind, that run at Southwell. Don't get me wrong, I do believe it favours horses that race near the front. However, if you can get a horse that can travel well and they decide to race it a fraction closer to the pace, because this horse is always slowly away and then makes ground relentlessly, especially as a closing. It's one of them like kind of unlucky horses, always closing towards the finish. Well, if they mess up the pace in front, this horse could be closing hand over fist. It's ran twice on the all weather and it's ran just okay. It hasn't ran disappointingly, it's just ran okay. Both times it's been slowly away, stayed on, and then that's it. You could say it probably more like it wasn't a non-trier, but more like your kind of educational non-triers ride where slowly away, works itself into the race, and then it finishes closer than it ever has been during the race. Well, Berry Edge is ridden by one of my favourite jockeys, Dylan Hogan. I think he's a cracking jockey and he's also decent on the all weather. This horse has gone from Michael Dodds to David Thompson. Um, David Thompson's okay trainer, hasn't got many horses, but I do believe he also trains, I think, I might be wrong now, John Kirkup. And D.W. Thompson, generally, and I know I haven't taken the price, but generally, I think there's too many runners in the race for some money on this horse to absolutely collapse the price. So I believe that it will stay. It will stay at least 16-1 because I think it is about that now. I may be completely wrong, but yeah, I think it's a horse that's definitely worth backing. Is it strong fancy? Not really. I do believe. Look at the colours and Berry Edge, as I've seen the horse run in the past. I think it stays with the same owner as well. I might be talking complete rubbish now, but that's. I do like the look of Berry Edge. The most obvious is Air Show that's likely to run its race. Melanie Joy, complete shot in the dark. Satar, I think it's on form. I think it's entitled to come in the first four. And Berry Edge is probably the most interesting out of the four. So I'll leave you with that. So the very best of luck. You can give me a like or a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.